what's up? It's me, Awesome Alley.
And I'm Raisa. Welcome back to another live. It has been a while, and we are back with another special guest on this episode of Adults. Teens Need to Know.
Who are you?
And what do you do?
Today is a very special guest. We happen to have the son of Robin Sharma, Colby Sharma, with us today. It is a very honorable moment for us here at App. So he is the author of The Curveball, a story of grit, adversity, and winning at the game of life. He also is a speaker, and we are just super excited to have him on today. So give him a warm welcome. Please welcome Colby Sharma.
Woo!
Ali and Raisa, it's a tremendous opportunity to be here and share this time with the audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so Colby, our first question that we always start off on our show is, who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Colby Sharma. I'm a law graduate that became an author of a book called The Curveball, a story of grit, adversity, winning the game of life. I'm driven to help people through my own experiences live a better and more fulfilling life by sharing my own personal experiences. I'm creating a body of work that is filled with timeless lessons for very timely moments in our world today.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And for our audience, let us know if you can hear Colby clearly, and us also. If there's any background noise, just let us know. So, great introduction, Colby. We're just we're so glad to have you here today. And we're going to be talking about your book. So, can you share a little bit about your journey writing your book and, writing your book, The Curveball, and then your speaking journey?
Well, the curveball was born really out of my own personal experiences. It was a time in my life that I was diagnosed with a learning disability when I was a teenager. And, that time in my life, it was a curveball. I was faced with an unexpected path. I was taken out of my normal school, my normal friends, my normal environment, and into the school. Little did I know that I would become my best self during that time. It shaped me profoundly. It taught me my own full and truest potential. And I'm just extremely grateful to have that experience. In the book, I share that time. And that's what really brought the curveball to life. And it was the motivation to write a book on that and to kind of incorporate that aspect. The second thing was, I've loved playing baseball. I'm a massive baseball fan. And I knew I wanted to kind of write a book that incorporated the best of sports and life lessons, because sports is a bonding aspect across society, whether it's hockey in Canada, whether it's cricket in India, or whether it's soccer all around the world. I mean, there's a reason the World Cup of Soccer has 6 billion people watch it, because it transcends boundaries, it transcends economies, it transcends societies. So I wanted to deliberately write a book that incorporated the best of that.
That's amazing.
And in terms of my speaking, well, it was something that I felt would be very beneficial to everyone that loved the book or wanted to maybe read the book. I wanted to work with people, whether it's organizations, and really help to find a way to share the book and the lessons in the book, and in whatever scenario, whatever path of life that they're doing.
Very nice. So do you think you would name every speech like how to deal with the curveball or using the curveball, or what is one key principle from your book that you would like to incorporate in all of your speeches?
That's very audience specific. It all depends on what the audience is, what they're doing, what the situation calls for. For example, I've done talks for lawyers. I've done talks for finance folks. It's tailoring it to the audience and not really labeling it like this is a curveball specific speech. But I'm just sharing lessons in the book and how it would help them sort of become more productive, increase sales, productivity, get more inspired. It's that sort of stuff, and I'm just using the lessons in the book to share it. What's most personal is also what's most universal. When I did a talk for Soch Mental Health, I brought up my vulnerability. I brought up my own background and connecting with the audience in a deeply personal way.
Yeah, because I feel that when you have that sense of vulnerability, when you put yourself out there, like you said, you can really connect to the audience because they think, oh my gosh, this is a real guy. He's gone through some hardship. I can
Totally,
relate to him, right? You give
totally.
that relatability aspect. That's like, oh, you're not this high person who I can't reach. I can do that. You've been where I am. You've struggled too. It gives you that human to your story. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Some of our audience are saying that our audio is pretty good, and Robert Brooker is actually saying this audience member is listening. So I
Awesome, Robert.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I not Abso, our mom. She
Yes.
also says hi, and
And
on
if you are
Insta.
watching, if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in. Colby is here to help you guys, help serve.
Yeah,
So if you got any questions, drop them down and we'll ask him.
exactly. And on Instagram, we have VIP BB, and we have Mech, who is on Instagram. So that's Samir's friend and also one of
Mm-hmm.
our authors.
Oh,
Colby,
excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really, really cool. We're gonna get a little bit philosophical here.
Yes,
And I
for
think
sure.
you expressing your vulnerability is so wonderful because then you have very strong opinions. So okay, let's get down to it. The big question as why do you think people suffer in this world?
Well, I think people suffer in this world because they're too caught up in the externalities and not focused as much internally, if that makes sense. There is a tension, there's a real tension in so many people today and in across our society writ large. We don't know how we are supposed to care for the animals and care for the environment and yet replenish our own well.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
struggling to define what is the boundaries and the barriers we have to live a private life and where we can just go inward and yet be in the outer world. There's a real tension between the two. And in the absence of that, there's a vacuum. And that's why we can become lonely, we can become frustrated, we can become isolated. And as I share in the book, this comes from Freud. There's a tension between us, between our heroic selves and our egoic selves. And it's really, life is a process of of diminishment. That's really all it is. It's a lifelong process of ego diminishment. And how when we see this in the book where we see the character in the beginning and where we find him at the end, it's a remarkable difference in how he's dimmed his ego, how he's learned mentorship, and where he's gone on his inner transformation.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And speaking of your character in the book, I know you said that you kind of wrote from personal experience, but can you tell us at least one time when you realized you had to dim your own ego?
For sure. It was really when I was coming out of it was really when I was coming out of that special school when I had my learning spirit. That was an ego process for me because the ego could have been, fight or fight. I want to just get this over and done with. I'm not gonna really do the necessary work. I'm not gonna do what they're telling me to do. Who are they to judge me?
Hmm.
The great glorious me. We get into that syndrome, what I call hero ball mentality. So that process for me, they were calling home to make sure, they're like, we're going to ask your dad, have you done your work and all that. And the ego could have resisted that. It could have resisted that change. It could have said, who are they to judge me? They don't know me. And I could have made a mess of the process, though. But that process, it not only broke down my inner barriers, though, it taught me neuroplasticity, the principle that the brain can always change and regrow itself. It taught me to deeply be empathetic when others are going through. Someone might be walking a different path other than myself. That doesn't mean I know more than they know or know less than they know. We're all here to walk together. And that school really shaped me profoundly. And it was a godsend for when I wrote the book because in the book I say, sometimes we have to lose something to find everything.
Mm,
And I mean by loss, I mean the ego needs to take a step back, and we need to do things that refine ourselves, that reflect on ourselves, have a better shot going forward. And if we can approach challenges incrementally, that's how we ultimately win at the game of life.
it's kind of so removing that ego, which is blocking you from really being able. It's like putting on the blinders to your life to only say, "Here's kind of what it is. Focus here," but it's like blocking out everything else. It's diminishing your vision of what life can really be to keep you in the boundaries of what your different perceptions and your past experiences tell you who you are. So that's amazing.
You know, I mean, the thing about perception is that there are constructs in the moment, though. A perception is not your true reality. It's only your reality in the moment. And when we're caught up with living an external life and not as much as of an internal life, we have a tension to and a pressure to have a perception of everything is going right in the moment. I'm beautiful in this moment, and you are beautiful, and we have to own our own inner peace and our own inner selves. But it's a false sense of perfection, and that's what we, I mean, there's a term. It's called uh, pink cloud syndrome, and that comes from the substance use community. And what pink cloud syndrome really means is I'm cured in this moment. I'm cured. I'm happy. I'm I'm on a cloud nine, so to speak.
Mm,
And we want to shy away from that because that would lead us downward. That would lead us not to really have the drive anymore to reflect, refine, and go through challenges one base at a time. And the cardinal principle I shared, page 23 of the book, is adversity loves your ego.
mm.
Adversity loves your ego. It loves a part of you that refuses to redefine itself, to reflect, to keep on going incrementally. And we want to be very cognizant and mindful of that as we go on our journeys.
Mhm.
Interesting. Where do you think your mindset towards, challenging and suffering in life came from?
Sorry, do you mind just repeating the question?
Yeah, for sure. I asked, where do you think your mindset towards, challenging and sufferings and adversity in life came from?
Lived experience. Lived experience. If I didn't have the journeys that I went through, with the special school, with the learning disability, it would have been a very different scenario. I still would have been successful, but that aided me because I could relate to so many more people. I
Mm,
could unlock a deeper sense of empathy having gone through that process. It gave me the fortitude and brought my own resilience out. When I worked in law jobs and I wasn't paid, it was deeply dissatisfying.
mm,
Deeply
Mhm.
dissatisfying. You feel low. You feel, do they really see me for what I truly am? And it's humbling at times because you can be more driven, but
yeah.
it's also this is not a mark on who I really am. And you can either exist in that reality or you can change the reality for what you truly want and to serve in your own way.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. Especially about, I want to go back to your line in the book on page 23 about adversity because you are so right. And also, thank you for sharing your experience with us and also your story because, coming to be vulnerable, it takes a lot of bravery and it's a lot of courage.
You,
So, going back to
sure.
that line of adversity, I really love the scientific evidence that you have because a lot of people in our generation right now are dealing with how do I become resilient? And I was talking to somebody about this today about how our generation is bombarded with unrealistic expectations of what our life is going to be like. So we have to retrain how we teach ourselves. So like what advice can you give to somebody on adversity and dimming the ego and using that kind of state of mind to really push them forward? Like, how do you be resilient in today's times?
You be resilient by stripping the problem down to its core,
Mm.
by honing in on what you can control and not focusing so much on what you cannot control, because that's a losing game. And it wouldn't lead really to success anyway, because if you're going to spend so much more of your efforts doing things that you might not be passionate about, you might not be, able to deal with. So when you become more resilient, you want to become resilient by just becoming more simple, stripping problems to the very core, getting rid of complexity. As I share in the beginning, letting go of of outer perfection and instead embrace inner reflection. And if you look at how you become more resilient, you become more adaptable by moving through a challenge incrementally, by not surrendering to the ego, which says, I want to get it all over and done with. I don't want to learn about it, how to persevere really through a sticky situation. Yet, that sticky situation, if you look on the other side of it, it's
Mhm.
a positive emotion. Each negative experience, each negative emotion has a positive on the outside. It's all about how we are willing to adapt ourselves to see it for what it truly is. And going back to the scientific literature, especially if you look at page 43, how about honing in on our responses emotionally, mentally, and physiologically. Dr. Leslie Becker Phelps, PhD, is her research talks about what is the origin theory. What is the origin theory of the response? Where did it come from in your past? If you've dealt with grief, if you dealt with trauma, if you've dealt with, you know, unbalanced emotions, if you've dealt with addiction to anything in its form, where did that come from though? Because those are all learned experiences. As I say, trauma has a touch point, and we need to find out where it came from. Where was its origin, and what about it triggers you to act in a way? Because that's the thing with triggers. They're so subtle, yet they act profoundly to activate us to where we can go and also where we couldn't go. If we have an experience where it's adverse and the ego is playing its mind, it's having us in the sand trap of its own adversity, does someone rush for the crutch of the bottle? Or does someone say to them, okay, this is an adverse moment. We go inward, we breathe, we find, and we reflect on itself, what it's going to. And as the great Viktor Frankl said, between the stimulus and the response, therein lies our freedom. And that's important for your audience, though, because when we're faced with resiliency, or we're faced with young people navigating this very uncertain, unprecedented time, we do have a power and an agency how we choose to approach the situation.
Yes. I I love what you said there at the end. It's between the stimulant and the response is where our freedom to choose. Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Between the stimulus and the response, therein lies our freedom.
There lies in our freedom. And that's so true. And then you brought up young people right after, because today, with us, especially with our phone being so accessible to us, and we get that, quick rush of dopamine each time we look at it, or that sense of relaxation. Now, when we have a problem that we don't want to face or don't want to deal with at that moment, we just quickly go to here. And it's something that we don't feel, or most people wouldn't like say, "Oh yeah, it's an addiction. Oh yeah, it's like I'm just using my phone." It's such a common thing that no one really realizes that. Are you using your phone to escape from reality, escape from your problems,
Yeah,
or are you actually using it to be kind of productive? So, uh, with that being so, accessible, with someone going through a problem right now, what's like maybe two steps they can do to begin the journey each time they get a problem instead of just jumping to the easy way out? What can they do instead?
you want to get back to a steady set of rituals. If it's a nightly ritual, do I check my phone before I'm going to bed? And I'm guilty of this as well. But if we go through challenges incrementally, we incrementally become better. We incrementally become who we are meant to be to really live a life of success and impact. So the first thing, set a standard operating ritual.
Hmm.
What is one ritual you want to live your mornings by and night times by? And carry that forward, because a ritual is a deeply patterned way that unlocks your higher performance. And when the going gets tough, the tough return to rituals. When we talk about adversity and we talk about being more resilient, there's never been a better time to weave your own ritual. Find something that speaks to you. So, for example, and this is something I think a lot of the audience would be very interesting to try out. Set up your own Facebook group. Set up a Facebook group on something, on a topic that really means a lot to you. Whether it's how do I get basketball to disadvantaged kids halfway across the world, and if basketball is your passion, what really speaks to you, and then try to create a ritual around that, and then record your results, journal, and meditate and reflect on how that ritual is succeeding.
Hmm.
Because that's the thing with rituals. If you look at the indigenous communities, they were the best at rituals, getting everyone together, getting them motivated, getting them excited about a common goal, about a common ambition. Whether it's creating a teepee or having a nightly potluck, they were really good at honing in on the simplest things. And that's the point. It's about simplicity right now. It's not about grandioseness. Going back to the literature, there's a great piece by Dr. Scott Baronato in the Harvard Business Review, and his article is called "The Restorative Power of Ritual," and it's about how the simplest set of actions can unlock your next best performing selves. And that's what's so key right now is, so to share with your audience, stripping it back, freeing yourself of complexity and overwhelm, because your ego wants you to surrender to overwhelm, but we can't afford to do that when the stakes are so high. So going one step at a time, embracing inner reflection at the expense of outer perfection, setting a standard operating ritual, and finally, adversity is a team sport. When you're faced with a challenge, it's okay. We want to have more bridges in our world and less barriers. We want to be cognizant that everyone has had those lived experiences, though, and I'm nothing special.
Hmm.
Break down your ego. Reach out to others for help.
Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. So first thing that I got there was setting up a ritual, something easy that you can do every single day, right? Getting into the I would say the habit, but you use the word ritual, right? Getting into the routine is like, all right, gotta do it. Keeping yourself accountable to it, right?
Mhm.
And then having some sense of humility, right? When you're walking around, acknowledging that like I'm going through something, this person's going through something, right?
Yeah.
Being aware and that not just trying to think, being selfish towards it,
Yeah.
right? But having that awareness, like, yeah,
Mhm.
everyone goes through their things. I'm going through my own thing. Is there? I'm
Well,
curious. Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I want to like also read some of our comments in
yeah.
terms
Robert,
of,
thank you
yeah,
for all the
Robert
comments.
Brooker. One of his rituals was actually reading so many books because he was able to like escape reality, but it's more nonfiction and satisfying curiosity. So I really love that because I think reading books does bring you to like a whole different world. I know many times if I'm on Zoom, there's like bookshelves behind me.
Yeah.
But like Colby, there's one thing that you really you kept mentioning throughout, which I love, and that's your knowledge of indigenous people. And I for me, like I see you as a very like inclusive person. So like, why is it important to you to celebrate all types of people? Why is inclusivity important for you?
Because we're all blessed with natural gifts, but sometimes we have to go through hard times to find our truest potential. I'm trying to be an advocate and an ally for those with learning disabilities because I saw and I see myself in them.
Mm,
I was you at one point in time, and what I'm doing and the message I'm sharing of curveballs, that learning disabilities community, and I don't like the word disabilities. I prefer the terms challenges, because a challenge is something you can actually overcome if you know the right steps. Disability seems something more permanent, at least to me, and more stuck set in stone. So I'm trying to be an ally for that community. But each community, whether it's the indigenous communities, has a special sets of gifts that we just need to unlock, and we need to be more empathetic, and we need to understand and really deeply understand what everyone is bringing to the table, and what is the history. Talk to them, have more barriers and less bridges, and if we do that, that's how we'll have success, especially in the new world beyond the pandemic.
Mm. Yes, I
Mm.
think definitely going into the new world, being able to cooperate with everybody from, all races, all religions, all backgrounds, right, is very important. Not even just because we're going now, but just moving forward into the future. Cooperation, leadership, teamwork. That's how we're gonna make those next advancements because we don't know, like you said, what each person brings to the table. And with that, like, comes resourcefulness. I just saw a video the other day of a person in Africa. I'm not sure which part, but he was creating amazing night vision goggles out of the scrap metals and scrap wires that he had over there.
Yeah,
Right? It's like you said, um, it's interesting. Like sometimes when you feel like you're in the worst possible spot, that's when the biggest breakthroughs and miracles kind of happen because you're put under pressure. We kind of live where we don't have to be under pressure. We can live how we want right now. There's problems, we can push it off. But when you really get down to it, when you really get put under pressure, like you start losing this and that, everything starts going downhill. You really have to kind of look at your life and, like you said, stop focusing externally, go internal for a second and say, what can I change? Because if you want to change your lifestyle, you have to be the first person to change, right?
as,
Um,
as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
yes.
Be the change you want to see in yourselves, in your community, to others around you. And when we have many, many, many small changes, and we're proceeding incrementally, and we're remembering our rituals, and we're controlling our responses mentally, physiologically, emotionally, and we're doing acts of service, that's gonna truly change the game. You know, speaking about my background, when I was in high school, I had a once in a generational chance to meet Jean Vanier. He's unfortunately passed, but he founded a community called L'Arche, which is a community in France where people with pretty advanced um, intellectual and physical disabilities can come together and really feel like they're part of the community. And I remember we were chatting with them. They were funny, full of life, or joie de vivre, as the French say. And it was simple. It was pure. It was rituals. It was like, you know, do I need to plant my pot somewhere, or do I need to have um, the next person join us, or what can I share? How can I be more open with others? And they were just making us laugh, and
Mm.
it really brought us down to simplicity and what it's really all about. And he had a great book we read in high school called Becoming Human, and it's a process of becoming more human. It's a process of becoming incrementally that much better throughout the day and throughout whatever journey we're on. And that's how we're going to really win at the game of life and find success.
I
Wow.
love
Amazing.
that.
Oh,
So, thank
wait,
you
one
so.
more thing. Sorry, Raisa. Um, one other thing that I just want to ask you really quickly, Colby, is when we were talking just for a second, you said problem, disabilities. You don't like that word, but rather challenges because it's something you can overcome. There was a book talking about creativity where the guy, similar thing, his employees would say problems. He's no, change that word, and they went to challenges too.
Yep.
What benefit do you think rewording certain words in your daily life that you might use can give you? So changing from disabilities to challenges or from problems to challenges, how can rewording certain words help you in your day-to-day life?
They can just make you feel better about yourself. If we take the word disability, disability, but disability, you cannot diss my innate ability. So if we really play around with the wording and we create phrases that include people, that really stand for something significant greater than ourselves, that has a profound impact on our empathy levels. They go higher, our self-esteem levels go higher, our compassion levels are elevated, and it's so important if we're going to truly have a diverse world. So disability, challenges, situations of improvement though, versus just problems though, because a problem, people's going to be like, well, why are you bullying me? Why are you talking down to me? You don't know me. And our hatred levels increase when we're talking with that, and there's a sense of friction and barriers and not a lot of bridges. So it's the small things that they're very semantics, but they have a profound impact. And we can really do with a lot less of that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think especially in today's world with like social media, I think a lot of people were trying to do that. Like they have good intentions, but like as we can see, it hasn't been going as well. But thank you, Colby, for joining us today. We're kind of gonna wrap up by saying like, what's next for you? How can we find you on social media?
Where can
How
people get
can
your
yeah,
book?
where can people get your book? And yeah, what's next for Mr. Colby Sharma?
So I'd like to thank everyone so much. This has been a tremendous opportunity. Thank you. If you'd like to purchase the book, you can find it on Amazon in paperback, audiobook, and ebook. You can find me on social media. My Instagram handle is Colby Sharma Official. Facebook, the Curveball 426, and I'm also on LinkedIn at Colby Sharma. You can sign up on my website for my 8-point guide to ego destruction, and you also can find that on my Instagram bio. That leads you to my mailing list. So if you'd like to sign up for my mailing list, you can do so at www.colbysharma.com. I'm also available for private speeches to individuals and organizations. If you want to learn how to overcome curveballs and adversity and really learn how to do and be more at that time, you can connect with me and we take it forward from there. Um, and that's it.
All right,
Okay,
amazing.
perfect.
So you
Thank
can find his book, Amazon, Colby Sharma official Instagram, and
mm.
hit him up. This is the man.
Yeah, Mac said, thanks, guys. Learned a lot on this one. Thank you, Mac, on Instagram.
And thank you to our audience
Yes.
on Facebook for all the likes and the loves. It is amazing having you guys back. Colby,
Ah,
once again, this has
thank
been an
you so
amazing
much.
interview. Ray Issa and I had an amazing time interviewing, and you gave a lot of gold and a lot of golden
Thank you.
information that I think people
Thank
can
you.
really use. So
Thank you.
thank you again. And this was presented by APSO. Awesome people.
Shaping our world.
Remember, you are
Th-
awesome.
And you can make the world a better
This has
place.
been a tremendous opportunity. You guys are great. APSO is doing great things. It's been a tremendous pleasure to share this half an hour with you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Oh, thank you,
you.
Colby.
Okay.
Greatly appreciated, man.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.